Welcome all to the latest episode of Retro Gamer Nation and to the September 29 edition of the C64 Roundup, where we take a look at some of the more notable releases relating to the Commodore 64 scene. Let's kick off this roundup by taking a look at the recent release of the Chopper Command Conversion, a game initially released by Activision for the Atari 2600 back in 1982. Chopper Command is a two-way horizontal scrolling shooter set in a desert environment, whereby the player controls a military-grade helicopter with the objective to protect a convoy of trucks by destroying all enemy fighters and helicopters. Or in other words, it's a Defender clone set in the desert. Chopper Command for the C64 has been handled by the development team of Antonio Savana, Steve Day and Saul Cross. The adaptation across onto the C64 is quite faithful to the original and features some great control handling. Flying your chopper around is highly responsive and a real joy. The graphics have been refined for the C64 and feature some nice parallax scrolling effects in the horizon. Throw in some great music and sound effects, and what we have here is a fun and highly enjoyable arcade shooter that extends the game's legacy. Great job. Somewhat continuing with the helicopter theme, if you haven't done so already, make sure you grab the latest issue of the best C64 themed publication, Reset 64. Issue 12 of Reset 64 is filled to the brim with game reviews of recent releases, news and feature articles. Reset 64 is the reason why I returned to gaming on the Commodore 64, and it's amazing that the team has been able to maintain its passion for our favourite 8-bit computer across all these years. Issue 12 is currently available in digital format and looks great on your favourite tablet device. The magazine, along with back issues, can be obtained from the Reset 64 itch.io page. Make sure you leave a small donation to show your appreciation. Each issue of Reset 64 is usually accompanied with a Mixi disc cover disc, and for this issue we have Digitaloy, a run and gun shooter that utilises gigantic Petsky sprites, colourful backgrounds and extensive non-linear map, all combining so well to provide an amazing oral experience. Starfish Remix, a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up with great music soundtrack but repetitive and uninspired gameplay. Shadow Switcher, a highly addictive old school arcade platform game that has that unique mechanic in that you can switch control over to your shadow to help you get out of tight situations. And then we have Rent-A-Cop Reloaded, which sees you play the role of Mr. Smith, beginning your qualifying training as a police officer. You are thrown into the deep end as you need to catch criminals within an allotted time limit and stay alive while completing each shift. To make this task difficult, you need to navigate through obstacles and criminal accomplices who are out to stop you. Quite a fun game that is made very challenging due to the time limit imposed. "4M Arena" is a 1 vs 1 confrontation shooting game that sees spaceships representing 4 of the most prominent 8-bit home computer systems duel it out for home computer supremacy. The gameplay is quite straightforward, as you have each ship assigned to one side of the play area, and you simply try to shoot your opponent until their health bar is all gone. To progress to the next stage, you will need to win 2 out of 3 rounds. 4M Arena is well presented and would be a fun party game. As a single game experience, it's somewhat limited, though the gravity effect on the later stages adds a little bit of variation to the gameplay. The next game we will look at was actually released last year in 2018. Mono is an arcade-style vertical scrolling shoot 'em up that features 6 levels and a unique health scoring system. Mono only provides you with 1 life, whereby your score is your life energy. You start with 0 points, and when you kill an enemy, you gain points. If an enemy hits you, then you lose points. As long as your health points are not in the negative, your game will continue. I really like this life energy system. The game field wraps around in 4 directions. For example, if you exit the screen from the left, you come back in from the right. Or if you exit from the bottom, you come back in from the top. This is a nice little feature of the game that proved to be handy when trying to avoid enemies, but I must admit that I find coming in and out from the top or bottom to be confusing, so pretty much stuck to wrapping around from the sides. Your ship is well defined and very well animated. It moves around at a good speed and that there are power-ups to collect that reset back one level every time you get hit. However, the background graphics do let the game down. Not only are they somewhat rudimentary, but they lack cohesiveness overall. Enemy sprites lack detail, and there are attack waves that lack sophistication. The limited attention to these graphical areas do give off a cheap feel to the game, and does detract from what the game does well. On a more positive note, the game's soundtrack is strong, especially if you enjoy trance style of music, but at times I did note that it sounded like it would stutter or pause if things got a little bit too hectic on screen. Overall, Mono is a good budget shooter game that's able to pull off a few tricks to make itself stand out from the crowd. However, it is only available in a physical cartridge edition at a high price, which seems to have alienated a few people in the C64 gaming scene who bemoan the game's shortcomings around its graphics. I myself had to borrow a copy of the game to try it out, as I wasn't in the mood to pay in excess of €40 for a 16K game, but having played it now, I may be enticed to add it to my collection if the price was adjusted down a little. Digital Monastery continues producing new game content for the C64 with the recent release of Burkes 4. Developed by John Williams, who is not only responsible for the previous Burkes trilogy, but has also produced C64 games such as Shadow Dancer, First Samurai, and Night Games back in the 80s. Burkes 4 sees you roam a labyrinth, collecting keys to gain access to the Crystal Chamber. Standing in your way will be Burkes, who wander aimlessly around the rooms but can be killed. Or drones home in on your position and can only be temporarily stunned. If you manage to get to the fourth and final stage, then you will have to deal with snakes, which are faster than drones. Graphics and sound are a standard fare for this flip-screen shooter, while the gameplay on offer is good and certainly does provide an old-school feel. Controlling a character is responsive, and I quite like the double-barreled firing mechanism along the vertical and horizontal planes. Whilst offering nothing new, Burkes 4 will keep fans of the genre entertained for a good few hours. Now we have a YouTube exclusive preview of Grid Pix, a nonogram puzzle game developed by Carlton Handley, which is expected to be released in the upcoming months via RGCD and Cytronic software. For those not familiar with what a nonogram puzzle is, basically it's a logic puzzle that requires you to build a picture by solving the number clues around the side of the grid. The numbers indicate how many consecutive filled cells there are in that row or column. Grid Pix will initially feature 100 different puzzles to solve, but the plan is to have a DLC type add-ons become available later on to include more puzzles. A nice touch is the choice of 3 different music soundtracks available to you from Merman, TDM and Cyborg Jeff. The tunes are selectable at will via the F keys, and while all 3 tracks are quite good, my personal favourite would have to be the old school flavoured tune on offer from Merman. For those of us who enjoy relaxing puzzle games, then you cannot go wrong with Grid Pix. I was quite surprised with how much time I lost being enthralled with solving the puzzles. Upon first loading up the game, I thought I would give it a quick 30-minute play, but I ended up playing for a few hours well into the small hours of the night. It is quite addictive. The overall production is of a good standard. The cassette and disc versions will have a password system in place to allow you to record your progress, while the cartridge edition will automatically save your progress to the cart RAM. For the fans of the puzzle genre, Grid Pix is a very easy recommendation from me. And to finish off this episode, let us take a look at some of the wonderful C64 graphic art that has been released from the scene in the past month or so. I am sure that you'll agree that they all look magnificent. Until next time, bye for now.